Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great broadcasters of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. This month, a real treat for anyone who listened to the radio during the last 30 years of the 20th century. I know that makes us sound old, but we are. And happily, we're still around to talk about it. If you were never in radio, the name Fred Sidoti probably doesn't mean a thing to you. But as our guest story develops, you'll certainly recognize his many air names, not to mention his unique voice and style. Before we start the conversation, a few side notes. I apologize in advance if you hear any stray background noises when my mic is open, as my neighbor chose our interview date to have his driveway repaved. I heard some truck backup beeping once or twice. And listen for a first in the 4-year history of Radio Split Ranch when I slip in a quick air check of someone other than my guest. You'll hear why as you enjoy hearing about the life and times of Fred Sidoti. Well, 3 of the people that I've interviewed so far in this series have said to me, make sure you say hi to Fred for us. So I'm going to do that right now. Fred, Joe Gallagher, Walt Fritz, and John Gabriel all say hi.
Very good. Yeah, great guys. Had fun working with all of them.
Yeah. Well, they remember you fondly and hope that maybe someday you can hop in the car and come up to one of our lunches so that we can, reminisce in person. But Fred Sidoti, thank you very much for joining us. You don't mind if I call you by your real name since you never use that on the air that I know of?
Not at all. No, that's fine.
Around here, you're known as, Bob, Johnny, Williams, Roberts, or something like that. You know, they call you all sorts of things. Yeah. So let's go back and find out how all that happened. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Albany.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yep. I grew up there, went to school there, spent, most of my life in the Albany area. And as a matter of fact, what we wound up doing when I was in junior high school and high school, my parents owned a 2-family house. Mm-hmm. And the people downstairs moved out, so my parents gave us the downstairs floor, and there were about 20 of us kids from the neighborhood, and we built our own radio station.
I'll be darned.
We built all our own equipment. We had a 100-milliwatt transmitter, so we were actually on the air.
Jeez.
And we ran that for about 6 years until we all graduated from high school.
Wow. Now, what year was this? What years, I should say, were you on the air there?
Well, let's see. I graduated from high school in 1967.
Okay.
So it would have been probably from maybe 1960 up through 67, something like that.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And listenership? I mean, did you show up in the ratings?
No, not really. It was funny because there was some kind of weird thing happened with that station too. Is back when you had the old fire alarm boxes in the city.
Yeah.
You could walk up to a fire alarm box and put a radio, no matter where you were in the city, up underneath the fire alarm box and be able to pick us up.
I'll be darned. That's really strange. But so what was the name of the station? Where were you on the dial? I need all this information.
We were WRVF.
Okay.
And we were 1270.
Where did RVF come from?
Ronnie, Vincent, and Fred.
I love it. The one that I had in my basement was named after my brothers and I. It was WSCG, Warren, Scott, and Craig Garling. That's
the way we all got started.
There you go. And later, I didn't want them touching my equipment anymore, so I became WSCO for Scotia, which is near where I lived. But anyway, well, that's pretty cool. That is so I really don't need to ask you where you got the bug. You were obviously quite young when that happened.
I wanted to be a DJ from day one. I used to sit up, before we built the radio station, I used to sit up in my bedroom and put records on the turntable and kind of pretend that I was introing the records up there.
Terrific. Yep. That's and again, that's how a lot of us started, and then decided it'd be kick. I saw my first station when I was 11, and that was it. The die was cast, I was on and off and running, mostly off, but anyway. So what happens after high school? What's going on? And are you going to pursue the career, or are you going to pursue some more education?
Well, I did a little of both. The first thing, my senior year of high school, I had all the credits I needed, so I only had to go to school half a day. And a woman who I knew through different acquaintances who worked at WEEE, there was a country station down in Glenmont. She called me up and she said, "Hey, they're looking for a weekend person. Would you be interested?" So send down an audition tape. I sent an audition tape down and I got the job.
Wow.
And the funny part about it is the general manager at that station was George Geib, who later was the general manager at a couple of the other stations I worked at.
There you go.
We kind of followed each other. So my first day, I was supposed to work on the weekends. And what they found out since I got out of school at like 11:30, they wanted me to come down to do the noon news.
Okay.
And so I finished doing the news. I would go home. And I just got home and my phone rings and it's the program director. The afternoon guy had all his wisdom teeth extracted. So they wanted me to come down and do the afternoon show.
Isn't that crazy?
And the funny part about it, it was the afternoon of my senior prom.
Oh.
Now, I wasn't planning on going to the prom anyway, but anyway, I went down. This is going to be my first day on the air actually DJing.
Okay.
So it's a 5,000-watt station, and I start doing the show, and I'm about maybe 45 minutes to an hour into it, and I had a question about something on the program log, and I walk out to ask a question, and everyone had left.
Oh, geez.
So here I am, this 17-year-old kid running a 5,000-watt radio station by myself.
That's crazy. Well, we have some similarities in this respect. I was called on a Thursday to see if I could train on a Friday at WSNY in Schenectady, which is a stop that you make later on, and wound up starting like the following Tuesday doing 3 to 7 drive for the summer. The problem was, it happened the day I got asked to do this, the day after my last full day of my junior year in high school. I couldn't tell anybody, except people I had phone numbers for, that I was actually going to be doing this. And I was kind of pissed off. I said, "Oh my God, the timing's terrible. I can't tell my classmates to be listening or anything like that." Well, at the end of the summer, when I go back to school, a lot of them did say they'd been listening, and some had called me at the station over the summer. But it was just kind of a strange start, to the career. But yeah. So now I got to ask the important question: were you a big country music fan at the time?
Not at all. The only thing I knew about country music was Buck Owens and Hank Williams.
Okay, there you go.
And the funny thing about it is I remember the first record I played. It was called "I Can't Get There From Here." Don't know why I remember it, but I remember it.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, a lot of us do remember our first songs. Mine was "What Does It Take to Win Your Love" by Junior Walker and the All-Stars. And I don't know why that stuck in my head all these years. I didn't write it down anywhere, but I remember that specifically being the first song I played on the radio. Weird. So you're a WEEE all of a sudden at 17 years old, and how's that go?
It was a very good job. The staff was great. They actually asked me during the summer to do summer fill-in for all the other people, morning show, middays,
nice.
Afternoons, that type of thing. So I did that throughout the summer. And at the end of the summer, I was offered a job at WBAZ in Kingston, New York. And just a weekend thing.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, yeah, what the heck? I'll go ahead and take that.
Okay.
And so I wound up going down there on the weekends.
Yeah.
I worked that for probably about a year or so, and then I got a call from WEEE asking me to come back again.
There you go. Now, I got to ask also, was this the beginning of your many names on the radio? What name did you use at EEE?
Actually, I started using the name Doc Roberts.
Okay.
And I picked that name from the Beatles record, Dr. Roberts.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
And so I started using that, and I used that for, oh, probably quite through those stations. I used it that whole time
Okay.
through all those stations at that point.
All right.
The nice part about working in Kingston is there was another station across town, and I became good friends with all the people that worked over there. One of them was Tom Brownlee.
I'll be darned.
And so we got to be good friends. And then a bunch of the other people who worked at that station have gone on to work at Sirius XM and other places
Hmm.
that, from that standpoint. So it was a good relationship just starting working at that little hole in the wall radio station.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Well, and we do end up making sometimes lifelong friends. Okay. I mean, I my first job, I worked with Doc Perryman and Walt Fritz, and they're still friends to this day. And I still
Yes.
I still see them many times a year. And it's just terrific. Well, we have so much in common, including the love and the drive that makes us want to do this and keep doing it no matter how little they pay us, and so we can commiserate on so many different levels. And we just, I mean, your name comes up in stories all the time at our regular lunches. And so we definitely have to, get you to drive up and join you. You're down in Connecticut right now. Is that where you are?
Yeah, I live in Connecticut.
Okay.
It's only a couple hours up to Albany. I have relatives up in the Albany area.
Cool.
So I don't get up there a lot, but I see those meetings and those breakfast and luncheon meetings that all of you have. And I
Yeah.
keep saying to my wife, I said, I really want to go up to one of those.
Yeah, you definitely have to. I'll certainly get you on the list now so that you know exactly when the lunches are coming up. As far as the breakfasts are concerned, that's Joe Gallagher's thing, and we'll let him take care of that. Getting you up here. But in any event, so you're doing Kingston, and then you did accept a full-time gig back at EEE.
Went back to WEEE, and I worked there for a while. Meanwhile, while I was working there, I also went to Hudson Valley Community College at the same time.
Okay.
And I was doing basically a course on electrical math and science and learning some more things about not only electricity, which I was in electric shop in high school. So I was kind of building on that, and also electronic background at the same time. And so while I was working there, I got a call from a friend of mine. He used the air name of Michael J. Raymond.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Mike Platt.
Mm-hmm.
He called and said they're looking for a person to do the all-night show on WTRY.
Wow.
So I went over and interviewed, and I got the job. George Williams was the program director at the time.
Okay.
And so I got the job there doing the all-night show on TRY.
What year do you think this was, Fred?
This would have been around 1968 or 9.
Okay. All right. I don't know if I was up past midnight many of those times because I was still in high school, but yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And what name were you using at TRY?
Well, they wanted me to use Bob Roberts.
Okay.
And so they wanted me to drop the Doc Roberts and go to Bob Roberts. So
okay.
That's where Bob Roberts came to be.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, Jerry Tyler, Jerry Tyler, he went by for many years. He owes WSNY his name because he was John Tyler, the president's name, on the Young Americans on SNY. And so when he left there, he just went to his real first name and kept the Tyler. And so, strange things happen that way. The other thing I was concerned about not my friends not being able to listen to me on SNY that summer is I was using Jesse James. And unless they recognize my voice, they have no idea that it's me, So it was a strange summer. And my grandmother was terribly upset because why aren't you using your real name on the radio? My friends would recognize that, And I said, sorry, Grandma, that's how it works, So
yeah.
So Bob Roberts is born at WTRY overnights. Now, what studios were you downtown Troy at the time, or were you?
Yeah, we were
okay.
The 92 4th Street in the Proctor's Theater building.
Right, exactly. Yeah, classic.
And it was a great studio, great station. The group that we had working there, it was just a phenomenal group of people.
Tell us about it.
Well, one of the things that I remember the most, I happened to be on the air when two major historical events happened.
Okay.
I was on the air the night of the explosion on Apollo 13,
Ooh.
and the newsman was still there at that point. So we carried the news bulletins, and I was getting off the air at that time. I think I was doing 7 to midnight. So I
Okay.
got off at midnight, and the newsman and I went into the newsroom, and NASA had fed the actual live audio feed from Earth to ground. And so we sat in the newsroom the whole night listening
Wow.
to make sure that they were okay from that standpoint.
Pretty neat.
And then one night I was on the air, and I get a call from a police officer in Cohoes. And he said, Kennedy was just shot. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, Bobby Kennedy was just shot. And so I ran into the newsroom. We didn't have a newsman on duty at that point. I ran into the newsroom, and of course the teletypes with the bells on them are going like crazy.
Yep.
So I got the bulletins off of there, and I read the bulletin as far as what was going on.
Wow.
But those are two major historical events that, while I was working at that particular point.
Yeah.
The other one, TRY hosted a concert over at the Troy Armory. And we had the New Colony Six, the McCoys, and the Beach Boys.
There you go.
And so I was part of the group and went over to MC part of this whole thing. And it was the night that Armstrong and Aldrin walked on the moon.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was actually on the air that night on WSNY.
Okay.
I'd only been on the air a month, and here I am covering the moon landing and man walking on the moon. That was just a strange night.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had our network patched in so that if they did come out early, which they did, that we could actually run that so that everybody could hear their first words. So the Beach Boys are like 3 songs into their set, and I had to get up and stop the show.
Oh.
And of course, nobody was happy about that. So I did my thing, and then the Beach Boys all took off. And we get ready. We played it for a little while, made sure that they both got out okay, that everything was okay. We could hear his first words. Now we go looking for the Beach Boys.
Oh, jeez.
And they're in the manager's office in the back of the Troy Armory around a little black and white TV.
They're watching it. Yeah.
Watching this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the first person up on stage was Dennis Wilson. Dennis and I talked for a little while about, hey, what's your next record coming out? Where are you guys headed to next? And that type of thing. And then the rest of the Beach Boys came up, and the whole place went wild. And
Sure.
it was just a fun night.
What a memorable night. That is wild. That is something.
Yeah.
Crazy. So you're having a ball, obviously, at TRY. And who are some of the other guys that you're working with?
Dan Martin was there at the time.
Was he Dan or Mickey at the time?
I think it was Dan.
Okay.
Because I think he had just come back.
Okay.
And he used Dan.
Yeah.
We had Chuck Morgan was doing the morning show.
Okay.
Mike Mitchell was doing middays.
Okay.
And then eventually they moved me to middays when Mike Mitchell was leaving.
Okay. Some of those names I'm not recognizing as well as others that I know have worked there over the years, because I went off to college right around then. So from 70 to 72, I was out of town. And so so I don't remember listening terribly much to radio locally during that time, because I really was in Boston for almost 2 years. But certainly, many of our listeners will remember those folks and probably worked with them at one time.
Don Burns was another person.
There you go. Yep, there's a name I recognize. Sure. And who's in the newsroom at the time?
Lou Tinney.
Sure, I worked with Lou later, years later at TRY. Yeah.
Yep. I think George Lizotte was still there.
It sounds about right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other. The one I'm trying to think of is the one guy that I can't think of his name right now, but he was kind of acted like the assistant news director.
Okay.
And I can't think of his name right
That's
now,
all right.
but he really did a lot of fill-in work. As a matter of fact, we became very close during there was a major snowstorm in 1969 between Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the air that night doing the all-night show. One newsman, he came in, and he and I were the only two were able to get in. And he and I ran the station for 2 days until they could finally clear the streets to get other people in.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot. And I do remember that storm because I was working just part-time Sunday afternoons on WSNY. And I remember having to hike in from State Street. My father dropped me off at the end of Lafayette Street, and I hiked in, through the snow, many feet deep. And I get there, and some smart person that was on before me had skied in. Their skis were sitting in the lobby. So I do remember that storm. Yep, crazy.
Oh, yeah. Now, and that was a memorable time. And finally, some other people started to get in, and they were able to take over for us. But we were working. At that point, we worked like 6 hours on, 6 hours off.
Crazy.
Until they could finally get other people in.
Yeah, those are the stories you won't hear anymore. I mean, it was just such a time where, you had to do it. You had to keep the station on the air, and it had to be live, and you're there, and you're taking care of business. And those days are long gone, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, how long were you at TRY altogether that time around?
I was at TRY through, I think, 1970.
Okay. All right. So couple years, couple good years. Yeah. Excellent.
And I left TRY, and then I got a call from Dale Lane asking me to come over and do the afternoon show on WFLY.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to a Beatles Solid Gold Weekend presented by the Big 92.
WFLY Stereo Intro.
8 o'clock with Bob Roberts. Just itching for a little like greenback money.
More music, WFLY Stereo.
Just gonna get a little celebrating in tonight at the Big 92 803 Rare Earth. Celebration continues. Labor Day, 1971. Please drive carefully. Heading on home. It's 8:06 with Big Bob.
The Latham Music Bar at the Latham Corners Shopping Center and the Apex Music Corner in downtown Schenectady. Music is our middle name.
WFLY.
Quite warm and humid with increasing cloudiness. Current metropolitan temperature is 71 at the Big 92. At this reminder, the Capital District chapter of the Multiple Sclerosis Society will present a horse show and bazaar to be take place Sunday, September 19th. Rain or shine at the Troy Riding Club in Wynant-Skill. Top-notch equestrian contest plus games for young and old. Donation for adults $1. Children accompanied by adults free. Refreshments will also be served.
Mr. More music, WFLY Stereo.
From the Big White Double album of the Beatles in 1968 at 8:13. This is Mother Nature's Son.
I worked at WFLY I was probably there about a year at that point, and then I get a call from a program director out in Buffalo at WYSL asking me to come out and interview for a job out there.
Now, I'm told by Joe Gallagher that Lee Clayton was the name out there. Does that sound right?
That's it. And that was the time when radio stations would get these jingle packages.
Yep.
And you were going to assume the name of whatever jingle person wasn't being used
that
at
was
that point.
The next up in the rotation. Yeah. I was one of, I think, at least 3 Jesse Jameses at WSNY. Yeah. And that's what they did. They just kept recycling those things. Friend of mine was one of the Greg Lyonses on WPTR, and he wanted to stand out from all the other Greg Lyonses there had been. And so he put Tiger in the middle with a tiger growling in the middle of it. Greg Tiger Lyons, he called himself. So you did what you had to do to establish some sort of identity. But you're 4 or 5 years into your career here, and you've already been Doc Roberts, Bob Roberts, and now Lee Clayton out in Buffalo. That's just crazy.
And the funny thing about it, while I was in the middle of the interview in Buffalo, I get a call from Dale Lane, and he said, "Did you get the job?" And I said, "Well, I'm pretty sure I have it. I just have to determine whether I want to take it or not." He said, "I would go ahead and take it because at that point, the other company came in to take over FLY and turn them classical.
Yep.
So I took the job. I worked in Buffalo for about 3 years. I was doing the 10 to 2 show at night, and then they moved me up to midday.
Now, talking about snowstorms, did you have any good ones during those 3 years that you were there?
The funny part about it, the years that I worked there, Albany got hit with the worst snowstorms, and we hardly got any.
Isn't that crazy? Just the way the weather was working that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I lived in a town called Lockport, so I was halfway between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie.
Wow.
So whenever those storms would come in, they would kind of bridge me. So they could get 2 feet on one side of me, 2 feet on the other, and I might get 6 inches to a foot in the middle. So.
Yeah, and that's the normal out there. 2 feet's nothing. They know how to navigate that. Yeah, crazy. So 3 years out there now, and is it rock and roll? I keep forgetting to ask about formats, but you were playing top 40 there?
It was top 40, yeah. The fun part about it for me is I was not a big football fan moving out there. Growing up as a kid, we were all baseball fans. And I found out I couldn't talk to any man, woman, or child unless I knew something about the sports teams.
Yeah.
So the sports director at the station gave me tickets to a Bills game. And they were playing in the old War Memorial Stadium downtown at the time. So I went to the game and I said, well, this is pretty cool. So that stadium, the roof was supported by girders. And so people would buy blocks of tickets on one side, and there'd be obstructed seats in the middle. There'd be a couple of empty seats on the other. So I'd go the afternoon of a game. I'd pick up straggler tickets for about $7.
Jeez.
And I got to see near the end of their careers, people like Johnny Unitas and Joe Namath and people like that.
Sure.
And the last thing they used that stadium for, if you ever see it, the movie The Natural with Robert Redford, that was the home field for his team, the New York Knights.
Isn't that crazy? I didn't know it was done there. How's that crazy? Yeah.
And that's the last thing they used that stadium for before they tore it down.
So you were there pre-OJ?
I was there when OJ was coming up as a rookie.
Okay.
So I got to see him in those early years when he was just getting started.
Well, I have to tell my OJ story then, okay? I was determined to see him play. This is probably the mid-'70s. And the only way I was going to be able to do it is if they came somewhere near where I could get. I wasn't going to go out to Buffalo. So I don't know if you ever worked with Mark Lawrence Kaplan, but Mark and I were best friends from the early days of our careers. And he says, well, let's take the bus to Schaefer Stadium and see, them play the Patriots. It won't be much of a game. The Buffalo Bills will roll over them and the whole thing, but you'll be able to say you saw OJ play. Third play of the game. And this is a portent of things to come. He gets upset with a ref, takes his helmet off and throws it on the field, and he gets tossed out of the game.
Wow.
I saw him carry the ball twice, I think, and that was it. And he was gone for the rest of the game. So that's my OJ and Buffalo Bills story.
I remember going to a game. It was like a blizzard.
Oh.
And I was sitting at about the 30-yard line. OJ was playing, and they were playing the Miami Dolphins. So Mercury Morris was a running back for the Dolphins at the time.
Yeah.
So whoever got the ball, and if they were headed in the other direction, they'd run into the snow. You couldn't see them. You had to wait to hear what the PA announcer tell you what was going on because you couldn't see anything.
Oh, that's crazy. We are as a human race, we're a little stupid sometimes, but you know what? Everything for our team. You're talking to a Red Sox fan here, so I've been there, done that.
Yeah, but I got to get into hockey, going to see the Buffalo Sabres play.
Cool.
And at the time, they had a basketball team too, the Buffalo Braves. And they had Bob McAdoo played for them.
Wow.
Ernie DiGregorio.
Sure.
And there was a guy who played for them. His name was Randy Smith. And so I got to see him play. This going back a few years ago. I'm reading the paper one day, and I see in the obituaries a Randy Smith. And it mentioned he had been a casino host at Mohegan Sun. So when I was down there one time, I talked to one of the hosts, and they said, oh, yeah. And he had passed away. He was working out one morning and passed away. And I said, I saw him play.
Okay, so Buffalo is cool. Any other memories from your days there? I mean, again, you're a top 40 station. Did you have some fun promotions and things like that stick in your head? Anything like that?
Yeah, we brought in Led Zeppelin.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, all of us got to go see that concert.
Sure.
And then Elvis was coming to town. I was the music director at the time. And we all got invited to this cocktail party for Elvis.
Wow.
Of course, Elvis didn't show up.
Of course not.
but RCA Records was buying us all food and booze and the whole bit like that.
Sure.
And then one time, my ex loved Chicago.
Okay.
And so I got tickets. I don't know, it was a birthday, anniversary, whatever, for Chicago. And so I come into the station that day. And I think at that time I was doing 6 to 10 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy named Kevin O'Connell who actually did pretty well for himself. He was on the West Coast. He was hosting game shows, and he did the weather at some of the stations, television stations in Buffalo as well. So I came in and I said, hey, I got tickets for Chicago. He says, sell them. I said, what do you mean sell them? I said, you know how hard these were to get? Trust me, sell them. I said, okay, I'll kill you if you do want to screw this up. So we meet at the station that night. We get in his car. We go down to the old Memorial Auditorium, and we pull into a parking lot, which kind of looked like the parking lot for the employees.
Okay.
Walks up, knocks on the door. The door opens. And the guy says, oh, Mr. O'Connell, come on in. I didn't know at the time, but his father was the city manager for the city of Buffalo. So as we walk in, security comes out. They grab our wives and pull our wives one way, and they pull us another way. We said, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Open a door. We're in the dressing room of Chicago.
Oh, cool.
I'm sitting on the couch talking to Robert Lamb and got to meet all the guys. And so the stage manager comes in. He says, okay, guys, time to come out. He says, okay, great. And we all go, hey, listen, it was really great meeting you and everything. And he says, no, come on out with us.
Really?
So this was a hockey arena. So like most times the hockey arena, you've got seats that are kind of on the edge of the stage.
Sure.
So they bring us out and they have us sit in these seats right at the edge of the stage. Our wives are in the front row. They see us. They say, like, what the heck are you guys doing? So we sat on the stage with Chicago for the whole show. After the show, security brings us down. We walk off stage with them. Security grabs our wives, opens the door, opens the gate, pushes them in, and we bring them into the dressing room so they all get to meet Chicago as well.
That's nice. That's man, I'm very envious. They started their career the same time I started mine in radio, so I've always had this affinity for them. I've got everything they've ever done. I've seen them in concert a half a dozen times, and my dream came true when one of my last years part-time on WTRY, Jamie Roberts, who was the real spokesperson of the station, the morning person, couldn't go. And she said, can you go and introduce Chicago and Earth, Wind, and Fire on stage at SPAC? And I just about fell over. I said, absolutely, because I knew I was getting close to the end of my days on the radio, and I lived out my dream. I got to introduce them on stage. So it was kind of like full circle, I felt, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a great concert because I saw them together at Mohegan Sun.
Yeah. Oh, man, you put those brass sections together, and you can't top it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Terrific. So there's some great memories from Buffalo. Where's it go from there?
Well, from one other quick thing in Buffalo. It was interesting. A friend of mine, his name was Frankie Nestro. He worked for Motown. He was a Motown record promoter. And he used to do a show on one of the local cable stations.
Okay.
And I knew that they were doing a telethon on the cable station to raise money for Children's Hospital. So I got off the air. It's 2:00 in the morning. And I said, I'm going to stop by and see if he's there. So I come walking in, and there was a few people in there at that point. There was a guy out there who's hosting the thing at that point. I walked over and I talked to somebody, and I asked if he was there, and he said, "Well, no, he's not there. Come on back." And I walked backstage, and they started asking me a bunch of questions, and I said, "What are you doing? Aren't you here to take over?" I said, "No, I was just stopping in to see a friend of mine." He said, "Oh," he said, "we really could use some help. Could you maybe help a little bit, maybe do some pitching, introduce some video. Then,
Wow.
yeah, okay, sure. So I'm there until like 6 o'clock in the morning. I get ready to leave, and the woman comes over. She says, "Could you possibly come back?" I said, "Okay, when do you want me back?" She said, "Well, later on this afternoon, maybe 1, 2 o'clock." I said, "Okay, fine." So I come back. I'm doing some pitching. I'm introducing some videos. There's a band, so I'm doing some intro with them. And she said, "Well, we have someone here we'd like you to interview. Let me introduce you." And I turn around and I look, and it's Les Paul.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "I know who that is."
Oh,
So we had a nice conversation, and there's a kids band behind us. And I said, "Well, if you don't mind, if I could impose on you, would you be able to play a little bit?" He says, "Well, if these young guys don't mind playing with this old guy," and he
Oh.
turns around, and the lead guitar player has a Les Paul guitar.
whoa.
So he asked the kid to borrow the guitar. Now they still haven't figured out who I'm
he is.
talking to.
Yeah, yeah.
He says to the guys, he says, "I'm just going to start." He says, "You just guys kind of pick up." All of a sudden, they realize this light went on, who they're playing with.
Yeah.
So at the end of the song, he asks somebody for a marker, and he autographs the guitar and hands it back to the kid.
Oh, man. What great story, Fred. That's terrific. Made that kid's day.
Yeah. And then one other quick thing, I got a call one day from the public television station. They were broadcasting a high school game of the week every Saturday. And they were looking for somebody to do play-by-play. And they said, "Would you be interested in doing play-by-play for these high school games?" I said, "Okay, sure." So, I mean, I had never done play-by-play, live play-by-play before,
Yeah.
but I said I knew enough about football. I figured I could, get by.
Yeah.
And so these young kids ran this whole thing, and they were really good. I mean, they had spotters, had a headset on with the spotters are telling you what's going on, the whole thing, just like a regular pro game.
Yeah.
I did that throughout the high school semester.
Well, more
And
power to you.
I said, "Well, this is pretty cool."
Yeah.
So that led on to some other stuff, which I'll get to in a little bit, that when I got back to Albany about doing some play-by-play as well.
Wow. Good for you. That's a completely different skill set, Fred, from disc jockey. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. And I often still to this day will sit and watch about, any kind of pro game, whether it's basketball, baseball, football. And I will just marvel at how well these guys do and how smooth it usually goes. And I think if I were thrust into that situation, they'd take me off, the mic in 10 seconds. It just amazes me that people can do that and have the wherewithal to pull from somewhere. Now, obviously, sometimes there's help, as you say, people next to them, but to be able to, pull stories out of their, heads and keep the game flowing and keep the stories interesting. That's a whole different skill set. Good for you.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun to do. From there, I left Buffalo and I moved back to Albany.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking around for a job, and I get a call from WSNY. And they asked me to come in for an interview, and I brought an audition tape. And the interview was actually supposed to be for a news job. And Rick W. Perry was the program director at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought in my audition tape, and he and somebody else went into another room, and they listened to the tape, and I could hear them playing the tape. And they kept rewinding it and playing it again and playing it again. And so I said, "Gee, I wonder what the heck's going on."
Yeah.
And they come walking out, and they said, "Well, I know that the position we had was for news, but would you consider doing the morning show?"
Wow, just like that.
And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yeah, we would love to have you do the morning show for us instead of doing the news."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay." So
do you remember who they were pushing aside to do that, or was somebody planning on leaving, or don't you remember any
I
of that?
think somebody was leaving at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were doing a lot of double ups at that particular point.
Mm.
And I can remember I did the morning show, and then Bob Stanley had a talk show right after me.
Okay, I remember Bob. He was my first news director at SNY back in 1969. Yeah.
Okay. And Rick W. Perry
Sure.
did the afternoon show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know Gabriel was on on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Doc Perryman, I think he did nights at that
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got started doing that. And it was kind of a weird type of shift too, because I do the morning show from 5:30 to 9 or 5:30 to 10. I forgot what the hours were.
Mm.
Then they would have me come back in the afternoon and do news.
Oh, okay. Yep. I've done that at a
And-
couple stations myself. Yep.
Yeah. And OTB results.
Uh-huh.
So I did that, but I only had to work Monday through Friday,
That's
which
nice.
was good.
Yeah.
WSNY, Schenectady.
107 with Bob Roberts on the Electric City Music Leader.
Schenectady weather.
Weatherman says variable cloudiness, hazy, warm, and humid today and tomorrow with a chance of a few afternoon or evening showers or thunder showers, high in the 80s. Partly cloudy tonight, low around 60. Winds east at 4. Humidity 65%. Partly sunny skies, 76 degrees at WSNY. And a reminder to help save the Albany Public Library. Well, no, don't save them. Just help them. Help the Albany Public Library celebrate its 50th anniversary. Come to a special program at noon on June 26th when Mayor Corning will announce the latest innovation in Albany's library service to the community. And that's what's happening from your community news leader.
WSNY.
Super SNY. On a weekend filled with a hit you want and the all request line. Open with Gabriel tomorrow night from 6 to midnight. Barry White. I'm gonna love you just a little bit more, babe. Barry White, Super SNY, 17 after 1 o'clock, 117. Bob Roberts for Rick W.
This is how it goes, Sal. Pass it on to you.
Sunday nights are special on Super SNY with the music you want to hear and a chance to win the albums you want to own. This is Gabriel. Join me every Sunday from 6 to right here on the Schenectady Music Leader.
1240 WSNY Super Weekend.
What am I doing up so early? I was on the midnight special last night. 76 degrees, cloudy at the outside. Bob Roberts for Rick W. 121. Like an old-time movie. Been listening to some Bob Stanley newscasts. 127, 27 minutes after 1 o'clock. It's Sol Magosa.
So in the process of this, they started talking about how they're going to do weekend high school football games.
Wow.
And they were looking for a person to do play-by-play.
Hmm.
And I said, well, I can do that.
Wow.
Really? I said, well, yeah, I did that in Buffalo, a little bit. Oh, would you want to do that? Yeah, sure. So it was funny because at the time, Tom Brownlee called me and he asked me to teach at his new School of Contemporary Radio.
Sure. Yeah.
And because they were licensed by the state of New York, we all had to get our New York State vocational teaching license.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Went through that myself. Yeah.
So one of the students that I had was a real sports freak. And so I said, hey, look, I'm doing these games on WSNY. Would you consider coming and doing color commentary? And he said, oh, yeah, sure. This guy was gung-ho. I mean, he would go down and interview the players and he would do all kinds of things.
Nice.
And we'd have tapes and that. So that was a lot of fun. So that was
Yeah.
another aspect of doing that.
Yeah.
So while I'm doing that job, and the funny part about it, while I was doing this job, I get a call from WPTR.
Okay.
And they're asking me if I can do weekends at WPTR.
Okay.
So
And they don't mind you still working at SNY during the week.
No. So
Okay.
I talked to Rick W. and I said, hey, would you mind if I did that? And I said, I'd be using a different name and, that whole thing. So he said, yeah, okay, sure. So
Jeez.
I started doing weekends at WPTR.
Fred, you've got such a distinct voice. I mean, people must have known. I mean, Schenectadians that listened to you on SNY because you really couldn't hear them too far, out of the market. You must have had some phone calls.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the funny thing about it, like we were talking about before, that they would always give you a name to use
Right.
because they had that jingle package.
Right.
So they gave me this name to use. The first time I said it, the phones lit up like crazy.
Oh.
And it was all these irate women. That's a guy who had been there using that name before. They're going crazy.
Do you dare mention the name? What name were you using?
I don't remember what it was.
Oh,
to
you
tell
don't?
the truth.
Oh, okay. All right. That's crazy.
I honestly don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not saying his name anymore. So on Monday morning, I called J.W. Wagner and I said, hey, look, Jay, I can't use that name. And I explained what happened. I said, listen, what about if I use the name Johnny Williams? I said, I've got a bunch of jingles, Johnny Williams jingles, and it's from the same jingle package that PTR has.
There
He said,
you
okay,
go.
if I use that.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, okay, sure.
Jeez. Johnny Williams is born out of necessity.
Yeah. So I wound up working at both stations for a while. Then I get a call from the station manager of WTRY. And he said, look, we're looking for a program director for WHSH. Would you be interested in coming over and interviewing for that? Okay, sure. Went over, interviewed, became the program director, WHSH. I hired a whole bunch of different people. John Knott, I gave him a job.
Sure.
Dale Lane, Rex Gregory.
Yep.
And probably my biggest hire, because we were up in the transmitter building out there in Niskayuna.
Mm-hmm.
And you needed to have somebody on the all-night section with a first-class ticket.
license, yeah, for engineering purposes, yeah.
So I'm looking for somebody to do the all-night show, and I got a bunch of audition tapes, and I get an audition tape from this guy named Bob Cruz.
Oh.
And he was just graduating from college up in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Graham Junior College. He went to my school, yeah.
So he came in and we interviewed, and I said, it's yours if you want the job.
Jeez.
So I hired him, and he did the all-night show. And at that time, we were simulcasting TRY and WHSH.
Okay.
So he was so good, I wanted to move him up into an earlier time slot. But he said, no, I like this slot. That's okay.
Wow.
I said, all right, fine. So in the interview, I said to him, so what's your aspirations? Where do you want to go? He said, well, my ultimate goal is I really would like to go to work at WABC.
Well, yeah, you and how many millions of others?
Yep. And he got the job there eventually.
Yes, he did.
Tom Cruise, WABC.
WABC tomorrow, Johnny Donovan. He's going to give you a WABC bonus contest with more chances for you to win it. It happens between 1 and 2. You keep it right here, WABC.
It was so cool,
wow.
Knowing him.
Yeah.
And we did some promotions together. We did all kinds of stuff. His mother lived down in the New York area, and she worked for some kind of a distributor and brought cases of stuff that we wound up wrapping up. And the whole staff, we wound up going over to the Albany Children's Home and gave them all the presents for Christmas.
Nice. How cool is that?
And so that was a lot of fun. But that was a great staff to work with. So I stayed there I did the morning show. I wound up doing that for a while until they decided to have the automation come in.
Mm-hmm.
And when that came in, I said, okay, well, this isn't going to be for me.
Yeah. Is that when they went to the Schulke format?
That was
beautiful music stuff. Yeah.
So I recommended John Knott and Bob Cruz take over, for me, which they wound up doing.
Mm-hmm.
I got ready to leave, and I get a call from Art Simmers, who was the station manager at WTRY when I worked there, now the station manager at WSNY.
Okay.
And he asked me if I would come back to work at SNY and do the morning show there.
God.
So went back to work at SNY, and I did that for a while, and then I was still doing that weekend thing. They've asked me to do that weekend thing again at PTR.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, PTR calls me and said, "Hey, we'd like you to take over the midday show."
Wow.
Now, it was kind of an infamous move because I was going to be replacing Boom Boom Brannigan.
Wow. Filling his time slot, I think, is what you would call it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there was a lot of animosity because of doing that. Because, I mean, just his name and notoriety and
Absolutely. And most of us grew up listening to him and based our shtick on his, because he was such an influence and so popular and, probably the most recognizable, name on area radio at the time. Top 40 anyway. Yeah. Unbelievable.
So I took the job at PTR. We were doing a reunion weekend one time, and they had asked Boom Boom to come back. And so I got to work with him in the studio, and that was kind of fun doing that. But I worked at PTR then for quite a few years. I'm trying to think how many years it was. Probably through maybe 76, maybe.
Okay.
In the course of working there, we started doing a bunch of radiothons.
Okay.
And they asked me to host these radiothons.
Mm-hmm.
So I hosted, the first one I did was for the Leukemia Society. It was a 36-hour radiothon, and I hosted that. We did that from the Knights of Pythias Hall. And then they did the Heart Fund radiothons, and I hosted that. And I did that for quite a while. And then one thing led to another, and I left PTR. And a friend of mine, well, you remember Scotty McAndrews?
I remember the name. Yep.
Okay. Well, he worked with me at PTR.
Okay.
And he went to work, after he left PTR, he went to work at Pitney Bowes. And we both had technical backgrounds.
Sure.
And so he called me up one day and he says, "Hey, are you ready to get out of there?" And I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Well, they're starting this brand new copier program here, and they're looking for somebody with a electromechanical and kind of PR background.
Yeah.
Would you be interested?"
Jeez.
I said, "What the heck?" So I went over and interviewed for the job, and I got the job.
Nice.
And I worked for them from 1976 through a whole bunch of different changes that they made and the whole thing up through 96, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Something like that.
So it could have been 20 years. Wow.
Yeah.
And were you doing any radio on the side at that time?
Well, that was the funny thing. PTR called me after I left, and they said, "Look, we've got a lot of really talented people here, but they can't ad-lib their way out of a paper bag. Would you consider coming back and doing the radiothon?"
Wow.
And I said, "I'll do it for them. No, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for them."
Yeah.
So I'm hosting the radiothon at some time in the middle of the night. And we're taking a break. And I forgot the name of the guy who was program director at the time. But somebody said to him, "You should get him back on the air." So a few days later, I get a call from Bob Osfeld, who is now the station manager. And he said, "Would you consider coming and doing weekends for us?" And I said, "Well, let me think about it." So I went over and talked to him. I said, "Okay, I'll do weekends. You want me to do Sunday mornings?" I said, "I'll do it on the condition that I can create and program a show."
Nice.
And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I've got an idea for a show, and I called it The Unforgettables." And we were on Sunday mornings from, it was like 9 to 2 or 10 to 2. And basically playing oldies.
Sure.
And meanwhile, TRY was doing a reunion thing up at SPAC.
Okay.
And they had all of us who had worked at TRY come up there to host this show.
Nice.
And so I'm sitting back in the green room, and who walks in but Freddie Cannon and Chubby Checker and all of these guys.
Yes.
So we got to talking and the whole thing, and I had to introduce the Five Satins.
Oh, there you go.
And so the show is over. We're getting ready to leave. And Freddie Cannon says, hey, we're going out to dinner. Why don't you come on out to dinner with us?
Jeez.
So he and I exchanged phone numbers. So the next thing I know, I would come home from work and I'd have a message on the table. Freddie Cannon called. And he said, hey, listen, I've got the number of a bunch of the guys who'd love to be on your show, because I would interview different people.
Yeah.
And he said, so he gave me numbers of like Del Shannon and all these different people.
How cool is that?
So what I would do is during the week, I'd go over and I'd call them and I'd interview them on tape.
Sure.
And so they would be, on the show that particular Sunday. I started getting a call then from all of these booking agencies in town. Hey, so-and-so is coming in town. Would you like to interview so-and-so? And I go, yeah, okay, sure. So one of the people that was coming in was Neil Sedaka. So I'm interviewing him, and he was cracking up because of a friend of mine worked at the radio station in Pittsfield, sent me a copy of a tape. Neil Sedaka recorded "Oh Carol." Carole King, as a kind of retribute to it, recorded a kind of a country sound called O'Neill.
O'Neill, exactly, yeah.
And I had a copy of that. And I said to him, well, I've got this copy of this record, O'Neill. He goes, oh my God, where'd you get that? So he said, all right. So he was going to be at the Colony Coliseum. He said, are you coming to the show? And I said, yeah. He said, when you come over, I'm going to leave word. I want you to come back to the trailer so I can meet you.
Nice.
So at the time he was touring with his daughter. So I got to meet him and his daughter. And so it was a lot of fun.
Oh, man.
So I was on the air at PTR, and the west of Albany, out in Gloversville, there was an MCA record pressing plant. And this woman comes in while I'm on the air, brings in this record. She said, look, this has not been released yet, but I wanted you to be the first to have it. See what you think. So I put it on the turntable and I listened to it, and I said, I'm going to put this on right now. Turned out it was Bad Blood. So it was a few months later, having lunch with the MCA promoter, and he reaches into his briefcase and he pulls out. Turns out we were the first station in the country to play it.
Yeah.
And I've got hanging in my dining room upstairs. It's a platinum record for Bad Blood.
Nice.
So it was that was kind of fun, some of those things, that we were able to do. So I did that oldie show on Sunday mornings for quite a while. And then one day, Bob Osfeld calls me. He says, look, we're switching the station over to a country format. I said, okay. He said, well, we still want you to do your show, but you can't play any Motown.
Okay.
I said, I said, Motown is the heart of that whole time period.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the Motown music really doesn't fit in with the country.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, well, if that's what it's going to be, then I quit.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, I'm sorry, but this is what we got to do. And I said, well, I'm leaving. So at the same time, Walt Fritz and I go to a football game. It was an NFL preseason game out at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse. And in the process of the game, he says, Jim Leonard's going to be leaving the Saturday Night Oldie Show on GY.
Wow.
So they're looking for somebody to take over. Would you be interested? I said, well, yeah, that'll be fun. So I get a call from Mike Neff that week, and he asked me to go to lunch with him, and we talked, and I started doing the Saturday Night Show.
Johnny Williams, 81, WGY, Saturday Night Oldie Show, WGY, remember.
I did that for, I don't know how many years I did it. It was always fun, doing that. But meanwhile, GY had me during the summer filling in. I filled in for Don Weeks and, Joe Gallagher and a whole bunch of other people at the time. Don Weeks kept pushing me. He wanted me to syndicate the show. He said, you could really do well. You could syndicate this show. And this Saturday Night Show. And I said, yeah, but that's a lot of work. And I said, I'm working full time at the time for Pitney Bowes. I really couldn't do it. But they had me go out and do all these different remotes for them. I would always, every year, go up and broadcast the Travers.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that every year. I would go out and broadcast the opening weekend out at the New York State Fair.
Nice.
And the one year while I was doing that, we had the mobile studio right there at Miller Court. And that night, Don McLean was performing.
Mm.
So in between shows, I walked in and I introduced myself, and he said, I listen to your show all the time.
Wow.
And I said, well, would you consider coming on with me for a little bit? And we could talk. Oh, yeah, sure.
Jeez.
So he came in and we did an interview. We talked for about a half hour before he had to leave and did the next show. So that were some of those memorable things we got to do.
Yeah. I've told this story before, so I won't get into it, but I knew Don McLean before he was Don McLean. Well, let's put it this way. I knew him before he had his first hit, okay? My music director at our school in Boston, Graham Junior College, brought him down to the studio while I was on the air. He actually took him down the hall and recorded an interview for his own show the next day. And so he tells me, oh, he's played up in Saratoga, so he just wanted to say hi and blah, blah, blah. I had no idea who it was until a few months later. I'm working in Saratoga Springs, and American Pie comes out, and I said, oh, my God, that's the guy that I met in my studio at college. Yeah. Just crazy.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, the first time I met him, I was doing Sunday mornings at TRY,
Mm-hmm.
and he was at the Cafe Lena up in Saratoga.
Sure.
And I got a call from a record promoter, and they said, hey, Don McLean's at the Cafe Lena. Could we bring him down so that you can interview him?
Nice.
And I said, yeah, sure. And it was before he released any records.
Wow.
He had his first record or his first album that was just coming out at the time. So we talked. Like I said, he hadn't had any hit records out yet, but we talked a little bit. And when I got to talk with him out at the New York State Fair, he was cracking up. He says, I remember that. He said, yeah, that was before I had any hit records. And I said, yeah, you're
crazy.
Right.
Just crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a fun, crazy business, and you just never know who you're going to run into, especially when you're heading up and they're heading down, or vice versa. And so you just never know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. One other funny, quick story. While doing the Saturday night show at GY, I used to get calls all the time to come over to the Comedy Coliseum and to MC different shows.
Sure.
One of the shows they asked me to MC was Bobby Rydell.
Mm.
I get up and I introduce him, and I go up to the top of the ramp next to the sound and lighting booth, and he comes running down, and he gets down and starts doing the show. And all of a sudden, if you remember, that stage was rotated.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the stage speeds up.
Oh, geez.
And it comes to the ramp of the exit ramp. And he finishes the song. He says, oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. And he comes running up the ramp, and he grabs my arm and he pulls me out. It was like a fenced in area just outside there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what's going on? I said, I don't know. What are you talking about? He says, I had a lot more songs to do. He said, but they gave me the high sign to stop. So there was a trooper standing there. And it turned out that the show was a benefit for the New York State Prison Guards Association.
Okay.
Two of them got into an argument out in the parking lot, and one shot the other.
Oh, my God. Crazy.
So Bobby Rydell looks at me. He says, was I that bad?
Wow. That's the story that he probably told the rest of his life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the next day I'm getting a call from all of the TV stations now. They want to come to my house to interview me. And I said, look, I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood. I don't want all the trucks coming in here.
Yeah.
Why don't I meet you over at the Comedy Coliseum? And we could do the interviews over there. So it's
crazy. I'll tell you, Fred, what a career. I mean, especially during the time when you're working for Pitney Bowes. I think that's just pretty cool that, so much is happening just for some hours, a couple of hours a week on the radio, and so much more is still happening for you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I have a DJ business on the side that I didn't do any advertising or anything like that, but I would, DJ parties and that kind of thing.
Sure.
My wife's a director with Mary Kay Cosmetics, and I would DJ a bunch of the Mary Kay events.
Oh, nice.
As a matter of fact, their national seminars in Dallas every year, and some of the national directors actually would hire me to do the music at their events in Dallas.
Nice.
So I did that for a number of years as well with them.
Yep.
But it's the thing with the whole radio aspect of things. It led to so many different things that you could do in your life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The people you got to meet. It's funny when you would travel, you would run into somebody that knew somebody else that you knew through radio as well. It was just.
Yep.
It was just an ongoing type thing.
Yeah, well, I wound up doing many years volunteering and then working for WMHT, public television, strictly because of my time on the radio. I was on the air at WGNA doing country music for many years, and whenever there was a country-oriented show that they were raising money around or, membership campaigns around on WMHT, they'd call and say, would you come in and co-host with us tonight? And that led to hosting their auctions, and eventually I became their auction manager. I served on their board. All of that would never have happened if I hadn't been in radio at the, again, right place at the right time, So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just never know.
Well, a couple of other things that came about, and I was just working part-time at the time then on GY. Jim Leonard was in the Air National Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So he had his once every few months, he had a weekend thing that he had to go do.
Right.
And so I DJ'd a party on Saturday night. I got home. So I get up Sunday morning and my daughter says, "Did you look outside?" And everything is completely covered with snow.
Oh, jeez.
So I said, "Well, I have no choice." I said, "I got to get over to the station."
Yeah.
And I lived in Colony at the time, going up there through Route 9, and headed over to Balltown Road, and it looked like a war zone.
Oh.
There's branches down. I could see there was no lights on in a lot of the houses. Traffic lights were out.
Yeah.
So I get to the station, and parts of it, they had a separate feed at the station for electricity, so we were good.
Okay.
But the engineer had to keep going up and cleaning off the satellite dish.
Sure.
So you get network.
Yeah.
So I get into the station. I figured, okay, well, it's a little snow. So I figured I'll have a little fun with this. And I go in and I grab Let It Snow, this song.
Yeah.
And I put it on. And as I'm playing it, I realize we're not going to be doing a regular show. This is like a major, major thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And no one else could get into the station except for one newsman. We wound up switching everything over to almost like a disaster state. And because GY was the only station that was able to reach out to a lot of the outlying areas out in Cobleskill and
true.
some of the other places.
Yeah.
So we wound up switching things over. The newsman, and I always tell people, if you could have seen, I think the program director, I think Mike Neff was able to get in too. If you could have seen what was going on inside the studio, you couldn't hear it on the air, but it looked like bedlam. I mean, everybody running around. The newsman would get something, he'd jump into the booth and he'd be pointing at him, and I'd turn it over to him, and we kept on doing that.
Wow. Just the great old days of live radio, when you really are the lifeline for the community.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we started taking calls from people asking, questions of what can we do here and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then we'd have different emergency organizations would jump in and tell us different things, how to handle it for different things. So I wound up on the air that day until, I don't know, it was like 6 or 8 o'clock.
Jeez.
because we couldn't get anything in. And Bob
Sure.
Cudmore wound up getting in.
Ah, there you go.
It turns out, because of what we did that day, the governor gave GY a citation
Wow.
for community service. So,
Nice. Yeah. Yep. Very nice. So
Yeah.
radio, even part-time eventually comes to an end for you. When did all that happen?
I worked at GY for about 6 years doing the Saturday night show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just got to the point where I just didn't want to work Saturday night anymore.
Sure.
And even though it was fun, I had such a great following, and the people that, would call me and talk to me and became really good friends with a lot of different people. It just got to the point where I just didn't feel like working on Saturday nights anymore.
Yeah, no, I blame. Well, smack dab in the middle of your weekend, to be very honest with you, right? And you were, working a 5-day week, and then you're doing this on Saturday nights. When I wanted to go back, part time after getting out of radio full time after about 17 years, and I mentioned it to my wife, I said, "What if I were to get a Saturday morning shift, so that by 10 o'clock Saturday morning, the weekend is ours?" And she said, "Well, if you can land that, go for it." And I called Brother Lou Roberts over at TRY. Didn't know him, but I knew of him, and I figured I could talk to him. And I wound up working at TRY Saturday mornings for 4 years, just Saturday mornings. And every once in a while, I'd have to be out of town for either a business or vacations and stuff like that. And we worked around that. Yeah. And it was just the perfect shift because I still had my whole weekend to myself. Of course, I needed a nap on Saturday afternoons, but other than that, it worked out well. So you're working for Pitney Bowes already at this time, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I started in 76 with Pitney Bowes, and I was a field service technician working on copiers.
Okay.
And then when they found out I could train, they asked me to start teaching some of the technicians on these things.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and then they made me region specialist. That was an interesting job. I always wanted that job. I lived in Albany.
Mm-hmm.
I was responsible for Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, Binghamton, and White Plains.
Okay. Kind of the whole state, it sounds to me, except New York City.
Yeah. And so when a technician would have a problem in one of those areas, they'd call me and I'd hop in the car and I'd go there and I would assist. Then I get a call one day from Pitney Bowes' home office in Connecticut. And they wanted me to move to Connecticut and become part of the main training department, national training department in Connecticut. Well, at the time, it was a nice incentive because Connecticut had no state sales tax.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really nice. And Pitney Bowes was offering to pay for my entire move. So my wife and I, we talked about it at that point. We just got married. At that point, we're getting married in 1990, and that's when we were moving to Connecticut. So it was kind of an incentive. They were giving me a big bonus to move and the whole thing.
Sure.
So we moved here, and the nice part about my wife, because of her business with Mary Kay doesn't have any territories. So she was able to move her whole business to Connecticut.
Nice.
And, and she still had her unit up in Albany, and she would go up to Albany and do meetings and that type of thing. So it worked out okay from that standpoint. As I got more into the training aspect of things with Pitney Bowes, they started me traveling around the country and do training all over the country and Canada.
Wow.
And then when new products would come out, they would send me to Japan. I went to Japan 10 times to get trained on new products.
Whoa.
And then they made me training manager. So when I would come back, I would write the training program. I would train the other trainers and get everything launched and ready to go. And we had a big training center just outside of Atlanta in Peachtree City that was like a college campus. It was really a beautiful training facility. And so I did that for a number of years. And then Pitney Bowes decided to separate the copier division from the main company and just decided to split it off because they thought it was dragging them down. It turned out that when they split us off, the copier stock went through the roof. So we wound up becoming our own company.
Nice.
Become Imagistics. And then in 2001, I think it was, Imagistics was bought by OSE, and OSE was a Netherlands-based company. And so I would go out to Chicago area and do training out at their training facility out there as well. And then OSE was eventually bought by Canon. So then I would go down to New Jersey and get some training and do some training down there as well. And then eventually after 28, I think it was about 28, 30, almost 36 years, Canon decided to lay off all of the regional trainers.
Oh, boy.
When that happened, okay, well, just go looking for something. Well, It turned out that Konica Minolta was looking for somebody to work in their tech support line. I had done tech support before. Well, it turns out when I went to Japan, I was being trained at the Konica Minolta facility.
Uh-huh.
So I found out that they had an opening at Konica Minolta up in Windsor. So I went up and interviewed for the job. And when they found out that I was technically factory trained, they hired me on the spot.
Nice.
Started out in tech support, but then they were having some negative comments about their tech support responses and that type of thing. So they brought me into the facilitation area. And what they did is they charged me with the job of getting the negative rating that they had. They had like an 85% negative rating.
Oh, boy.
They wanted me to see what I could do to fix it. And so I came up with a plan and wound up working it out, brought it from 85 down to, I think it was like 15% within a month.
Nice.
And it was not brain surgery. It was very easy to be able to do that. I worked with them up through 2018. They then decided to move the whole operation out of Windsor down to New Jersey, Ramsey, New Jersey. And they offered me my job to move with me. And I said, I'm not moving. So anyone decided not to move, basically, we were out. So right after that, just maybe a couple of months later, I get a call from this company who was looking for trainers to do remote training. The company was Republic Services. They're a trash hauling company.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I know them. Yeah, they actually serve our area here a little bit. Yeah.
What they wanted to do was convert all their drivers over to tablets to get them off of paper vehicle condition reports, paper route slips, that type of thing. And it was our job to be able to train them on the tablets. We did it all using one of the visual interface sites. So, it's like, I'm trying to remember which one we used. We used a couple of different ones.
Sure.
But basically, we would have all of them in the room, and then we could visually see them. And then we would do our presentation for them. We do a couple of them in the week, and then we do a follow-up with them to make sure everything was okay. This was supposed to be a contract that was supposed to last until the end of that year. But I guess we did too good a job because we trained over 5,000 drivers from January through October.
Wow.
And so they said, well, sorry, but the contract is going to be up. But any of us that stuck it out right to the very end, they gave us a $2,000 bonus.
Nice.
And they gave us a good recommendation. And they also offered us other positions if we wanted to interview for them. A couple months later, I get a call from another company who was looking for trainers to train all of the VA clinics on the software that our group developed. And my dad had been a veteran, so I was very familiar with being at the VA hospitals and all the stuff that the veterans were going through. I wound up with a 3-year contract where we would take the software that we would develop, and I would do online training with all of the VA clinics across the country on how to use this software. And then I would help them if they were having problems, troubleshoot it, and going in to do that. So that was a really fun training job.
Yeah. And obviously very rewarding. Yeah. You're kind of giving back, to folks who served. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that contract ended. It ended about a year ago in June. And I figured, okay, well, that's it. So when it was over, I thought, okay, well, I'll start looking for a new job. Well, Oracle contacted me. We want you to stay on. We want you to go through some of our training programs and get through some of the training and take care of this. And we want you to do that, but we want you to stay on with us. So I'm still working for Oracle.
Nice, nice. And working out of your house?
Yeah, work out. My office, like I said, is in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's is up on the second floor.
Nice.
And it's an easy job.
Yeah.
And no complaints whatsoever. It's a fun job.
Nice.
And so that training that Tom Brownlee got me started at the new school has now factored through my whole life.
Yeah. Well, actually, it helped me along the way as well, because I wound up the last 10 years or so of my working years before retiring about 6 years ago was teaching voice acting. And, the basics of what I learned from Tom Brownlee back in 1980, worked for me the rest of my life when it came to, dealing with people and trying to teach them something. And it worked very well for the 10 years that I taught voice acting as well. So we have some things to thank him for along the way. Absolutely. I thank him for being able to pay the mortgage, because I was working for a radio station, and after 12 years with him, I was making $17,000 a year. And, in order to keep the kids fed and the house, the roof over our heads, he offered me the part-time job with him. I wound up becoming assistant director at the school between 80 and, probably in about 1985 in there somewhere. And just enjoyed every moment that I was, with him and what he did. And if you haven't listened to his interview on these, on Radio Split Ranch, be sure to go back and listen to it. It is an absolute panic. Just the way his life started and then turned out, it just, blow your mind the way he tells it.
Oh, yeah.
So, something else.
We had such a good time working together there at the school.
He's a great guy. Great guy.
And, the nice thing about it, too, is part of this training and learning the training, getting into the training, what wound up happening with Pitney Bowes and also with Konica Minolta, I wound up training other trainers.
There you go. Yeah.
So I would teach them the basics of what they should be doing as far as an instructor and how to handle things, what to look for. As a matter of fact, when I worked in radio in Buffalo, I got calls from a couple of the schools. They asked me to come over and speak in some of the English classes about broadcasting and music and that kind of things.
Yeah. Comes in handy there, too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Fred, I'll tell you, it sounds like it's been an interesting life so far and that you're still enjoying it, and that's good to hear. And it's nice to know you're only a couple of hours away, because you're going to start getting invites to our lunches, and hopefully you'll get one where it works out for you to come up, maybe visit family and have lunch with some old friends. Sound good?
That would be great. I'd love to do that, yeah.
Terrific. Well, again, thanks for your time today, and I just wish you the best going forward.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you very much for thinking of me, and this has been a great time. Thank you.
Radio Split Ranch.
There are some voices that will forever be associated with great radio in the great Northeast, and Fred's is certainly one of those. Another is someone I'd like to thank for sharing with us the air check he recorded from his home radio while listening to Bob Roberts on that Beatles weekend on WFLY in 1971. Your friend and his, John Gabriel. Oh, and one more thank you, Richie Norris, for digging up the Jock signature jingle that he had in his collection of Johnny Williams on WGY for his Saturday night show. As for the non-Fred air check of Bob Cruz that I included in this interview, Bob was one of the many success stories to come out of my alma mater, Graham Junior College in Boston, and of course, WHSH here in Albany. After his time working for Fred at what eventually became Pix 106, he made his way to the top of his wish list at WABC in New York, where he worked from 1976 to 1981. He died much too young in 1995 at the age of just 43. Time for some more time travel, something we specialize in here at the Radio Split Ranch. Going to take you back 36 years to a time when live radio thrived up and down the AM and FM dials. This is from my first stint at the old Great 98 WTRY AM 980. Note how many contests and promotions this 5,000-watt mainstay is offering on Memorial Day weekend 1989. You'll hear me mention most of the air staff at the time, as we were all appearing all over the capital region. As for me, I'll appear here once again next month, so I hope you'll join me then for another great conversation. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
This is Lieutenant for Newswatch 98, a service of WTRY for the Capital District.
It's 7:07 on a Motown weekend.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldies station.
And the Supremes kick it off this hour with first of 5 in a row.
Sweet little 16.
Chuck Berry on the oldie station, 98 WTRY. Are we awake yet? I think we are. 13 minutes after 7:13, sunshine, 60 degrees, and the wee 5. You were on my mind. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Four Tops, 1965, and I can't help myself on a Motown weekend, Memorial Day weekend, 1989. Love is all around. Here's one of 2 top 10s for the Trogs.
I feel it, come on and let it show.
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY. 7:21. It's a Saturday morning. My name is Chris Warren. We do this every Saturday morning because it gets me out of the house, you know? Sunshine, little cloudiness sneaking in, and 60 degrees. The forecast from Bob Kabacha coming up momentarily. But first, 98 WTRY has today's clues as to when we're going to reach into the WTRY Money Card mailbag and give away a share, perhaps your share, of $10,000 in cash. And here's how it's happening. 8 o'clock this morning, in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll give you a chance. Yours truly, Chris Warren. 11 o'clock this morning, Mike Edwards will be in, and sometime in that hour could be your chance to win. And again, this afternoon, or early this evening, if you will, in the 6 o'clock hour, Jerry Tyler will be in. There you go. If you send us your WTRY money card, be listening today. If you hear your name, call us back within 30 minutes, you'll win your share of $10,000 in cash. I gave away $98 last Saturday morning right here on the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
And growing.
The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV13 meteorologist Bob Kabacha, calling for sunshine right now. A little sunshine, little clouds, and 60 degrees at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
It's the right place for gold. We specialize in oldies, WTRY.
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY. Chris in your ear, hanging from your earlobe until 10 o'clock this morning. Lieutenant has news next at 7:30 after Voice and Heart.
If I had told it.
For the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldie station.
It's 7:36 on a Motown weekend at the original oldie station, 98 TRY.
Look here, girls, ain't gonna let nobody.
Marvelettes on a Motown weekend at 98 WTRY. Too many fish in the sea. 22 shy of 8 o'clock. It is 7:38 on a Saturday morning. You're with Chris at 98 WTRY with the piano man, Mr. Billy Joel.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Billy Joel and his early stuff. Yeah, that was the one that I think put him on the map. It sure did back in 1974. You know, it only got up to number 25 on the charts. It's played more as an oldie, I think, than it was as a hit. We're about 16 shy of 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. You're with Chris. Glad to have you along. The sunshine that we started with this morning kind of disappeared a bit. Few cloudy periods expected. We'll get up to 73 today. Bob Kabachik's weekend weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Kenny Rogers.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. The best of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You know, usually around this time on a Saturday morning, we check out this date in history, see what exciting things happen. But you know, not much exciting happened on this date in history over the years. In 1647, the first American recorded execution of a witch. I mean, you know, Wild Bill Hickok was born on this day in 1837. Wild Bill Hickok, if you say that correctly. In 1936, the Queen Mary left England on its maiden voyage. Golden Gate Bridge opened on this date in 1937. Nothing really terribly interesting. And I figured out why.
It's Memorial Day weekend. Everybody was on vacation. Ah, yes, little green onions for breakfast this morning. Oh, what a way to start the day. Big heaping bowl of green onions. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, 9 before 8 o'clock. 7:51, a Saturday morning with Chris. We've lost the sunshine, got a few cloudy periods through the day, and chance of an afternoon shower, high 73. I'll give you the rest of the forecast from Bob Kovacic momentarily. We have a Motown weekend underway. Got another 3 or 4 great Motown oldies coming up next hour as well. And next hour, your chance to win, yes, $98 in cash in the WTRY Money Card Contest. Stick around for that at 98 WTRY. We're teaming up also with a current affair. We've got your chance to win a Sony Dream Machine and qualify to win your share of $98,000 in cash and prizes, including a 2-week trip to Hawaii. And all you have to do to win, yes, is watch A Current Affair on WTEN Channel 10 and listen to Tom Williams, 8:20 each Monday through Friday morning on WTRY, the oldie station.
News only as directed.
I always do, yes. 6 minutes before 8 o'clock, a Saturday morning with Chris, and I've got the WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to TV13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic, so make your plans for then, I guess. Right now, we have a little cloudiness and 60 degrees at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
98 WTRY. Summer Sounds.
Dionne Warwick on the oldie station 98 WTRY. 1964 was the year for Walk On By. 2.5 before 8 o'clock, 2.5 before Lou Tinney News at 8. And we'll be back after that with 2 more hours together this morning and a chance for you to win $98 in cash in the Money Card Contest. Here's Herman's Hermits.
WTRY for the Capital District.
And you're in a Motown weekend at 98 TRY with Chris at 8:07.
Chris Warren. WTRY, the oldie station. The shadows of
Motown Weekend on 98 WTRY, the original oldie station, 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. With Johnny Tillotson, it just keeps right on a hurtin'. Right here, right? 1962 on the oldie station, 98 WTRY, Johnny Tillotson. And it keeps right on a hurtin'. Must have been that banana I had this morning. Right here, 98 WTRY. Where later this hour, we'll go to our money card mailbag, draw out someone's name to win $98 in cash. So if you sent in that WTRY money card, be listening. We might announce your name later this hour. All you have to do is call us back within 30 minutes and you win the cash from the oldie station 98 WTRY, where you're also invited to join us for a special live oldies party next Sunday, June 4th, as we join with Channel 10 WTEN at the Great Escape in Lake George as a part of the Children's Miracle Network Telethon, benefiting the Children's Hospital at Albany Medical Center. Now, Tom Williams, Walt Adams, Darcy Wells, and other WTRY staff members, maybe I'll even get on up there, will be on hand along with special guests as we play your favorite oldies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. That's live at the Great Escape in Lake George, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. next Sunday, June 4th, and a special WTRY Oldies party for the Children's Miracle Network Telethon. Now, don't forget the telethon starts on Channel 10 next Saturday night, June 3rd, 9 o'clock, and you can phone in a pledge and then join us in Lake George, Sunday, June 4th, from the Oldie Station, 98 WTRY. Temptations on a Motown weekend from 1966. Get ready. I hope you are ready. We got a money card contest coming up this hour and the Motown contest next hour. Yeah, your chance to win a copy of Motown's Million Performance Songs Volume 2 coming up next hour right here. So stick around for that at 98 WTRY. Want to remind you, they got Cousin Brucey coming in tomorrow morning. Yep, weekend with Cousin Brucey. It just wouldn't be a weekend without Cousin Brucey. And because it is a special Memorial Day weekend, we've got a salute featuring nothing but #1 summertime hits tomorrow morning starting at 10 on the oldie station 98 WTRY.
There's $1 million. No purchase necessary for sweepstakes.
And the WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to TV13, right now, cloudy skies, 60 degrees at Weather Watch 98 WTRY. Where it's time right now to reach into the WTRY money card mailbag and draw the name of another lucky person to win $98 in cash. I have the name of Donna Provost of Schenectady right here in my hand. That's Donna Provost of Schenectady. You have 30 minutes to call me back at 476-WTRY and win $98 in cash. Donna Provost of Schenectady, good luck. 24 minutes after 8:24, Saturday morning with Chris and a song sung blue. Here's Neil Diamond on the oldie station. Original oldie station, 98 WTRY, 27 minutes after 8:27. Saturday, you're with Chris and the Buckinghams. Hey, baby, they're playing our song next. Lou Tinney's got news at 8:30.
Service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Hey, Lou, we did it again.
What?
We got another winner. Don't you love it? Don't you love it when you get winners?
Oh, we love the winners.
All right. 98 WTRY. Hi, what's your name?
Donna Provo.
And Donna, where are you calling from?
Schenectady.
And why are you calling this morning, Donna?
I heard my name on the radio.
You heard your name on the radio. Well, that must be because I read it on the radio as a money card holder, and you just won yourself $98 in cash with a WTRY money card.
Oh, that's great.
Fantastic way to start a holiday weekend, huh?
Sure is.
Now you can go out and spend $98 and not have to worry about a thing because it's found money, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, have a super weekend with it, and tell me down at what radio station specializes in the oldies.
WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. It's not unusual to find Chris Warren on the radio Saturday mornings. Actually, it's quite usual, 18 shy of 9 o'clock. And we have at WTRY, the original oldie station, a celebration of the 100th anniversary of the jukebox. We're going to give you a chance to win your very own Wurlitzer. This is worth a few thousand, folks. And we're going to even stock it with records. Simply listen to John Gabriel weekdays 10 to 3 for an oldies trivia question. The first correct caller will score a pair of Canada Dry American Bandstand t-shirts and qualify to win the Wurlitzer. And if you'd like some help with the answers, hey, this is easy. Just stop by the Canada Dry Ginger Ale Rock Your Memory display at area Bond Fair stores, formerly Convenient Food Marts, and pick up an answer card. Soon you could be rocking to the oldies, played on your very own Wurlitzer jukebox, only from the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Here's a note. I'm sorry, that number has been disconnected.
Excuse me. The oldie station, 98 WTRY, Beechwood, 45789. They didn't say what area code, so you just can't get through. 9 before 9 o'clock, time natural. Naturally enough, Chris is in your ear, and we're going to do it till 10 o'clock this morning. Glad to have you along at 98 WTRY. Got Bob Kavachik's weekend weather forecast coming up next, and we're going to give you some more chances to win with the WTRY Freihoffer's Keychain Contest. Listen to Tom Williams. He's here Monday through Thursdays at 7:20 a.m., and he's actually here Monday through Friday, but Monday through Thursday, he has the lucky keychain number and details on how you can win a great prize, like a pair of airline tickets to anywhere in the continental United States, courtesy of Delta Airlines. Plus, listen every Friday, it's Silver Dollar Day, and your chance to win 98 silver dollars from Albany Savings Bank and 98 WTRY.
Excellent.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY, with the Weather Watch forecast, according to TV 13 right now, 61 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station. The 98 WTRY.
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY. It's a Memorial Day Motown weekend. Coming up next hour, Four Tops, Temptations, Miracles, Stevie Wonder, and more. Hope you'll stick around for that. If you're a lottery fan and had a ticket in hand from last night, 638, the winning number, 638. The win for number was 0970. That's 0970. Good luck. Hope you have better luck than Charlie did here on the MTA. Here's the Kingston Trio.
These are the times for the Capital District.
On a Motown weekend at 6 minutes after 9 o'clock with
Chris Warren. WTRY, the oldie station.
And the Four Tops from 67. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, and all of my love. Oh boy, there's Buddy Holly going back to 1958. Got some music still to come this hour from Chad and Jeremy. In fact, next, guess who? And who else will we squeeze in here? The Association. And here's a song you should be listening for as we celebrate Memorial Day weekend with our Motown weekend. Later this hour, when you hear me play Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, I Second That Emotion. Be the 9th caller through at 476 WTRY, and you'll win a copy of Motown's Million Performance Songs Volume 2 on LP. Remember, later this hour, when you hear Smokey Bill and the Miracles, I Second That Emotion. Be the 9th caller through 476 WTRY and be a winner on our Motown weekend.
This is
the original oldie station, 98 WTRY, with no particular place to go, if that's the way it is this weekend, or if you are on the go, we hope you'll take us along with you. And whatever you do this Memorial Day, make it a safe one. Don't drink and drive, okay? You give the keys to somebody else? All right, 21 minutes after 9 o'clock at 98 WTRY. The only thing that I don't like about working here, yes, there is something I don't like about working at this radio station, even just 4 hours a week, is that I can't get involved in the contests. A lot of good stuff going on. Are you a master of popular music trivia? I love music trivia, and I can't get involved in this, but Tom Williams is involved in it today at Rotterdam Square for the Music Masters Trivia Challenge. You can test your knowledge of music today at 1 and 4 p.m. Registration takes place just 1/2 hour before each show, and many great prizes are at stake. We hope you'll join us for the Music Masters Trivia Challenge, and Tom Williams today at Rotterdam Square Mall with the oldie station 98 WTRY.
Ask Sherwin-Williams.
The WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to TV 13 Meteor, now some cloudiness, a little sunshine, 61 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Gary Puckett and the Union Gap Over You from 68. This is the last song that we're going to play this half hour anyway. Lieutenant News at 9:30. Here's Edward Bear.
For the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldie station.
Good morning, 9:36 on a Motown weekend. Glad to have you along a Saturday morning with Chris. And it keeps coming at you. Dope. Thank you very much. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Guess who? Oh, I don't know who. Oh, Undone. That's the name of the group. Okay, gotcha. 18 before and 10 o'clock. Yes. It is 9:42, and Chris is in your ear for another, how many minutes? You figure it out, 18 minutes or so. With cloudy skies, 63 degrees, we look like a weekend that'll be not too bad altogether, especially when you figure we're giving things away on the Motown weekend. We do have our winner, and we're going to talk to her momentarily.
Attention.
All right, and Uptight at 98 WTRY with Stevie Wonder from 1966. Let's go back to 1968 with the Association and Everything That Touches You. The original oldie station, 98 WTRY, had an orange label, Warner Brothers. I remember well, had that in my collection. Association, Everything That Touches You. 9:30 before 10 o'clock. Just 9.5 minutes left together this Memorial Day weekend with Chris. Glad to have you along. Mike Edwards coming in shortly after 10 o'clock. And he's not working tomorrow night. That's what he keeps telling me. He's so thrilled. It's been, what'd you say? It's been a year since?
It's been a year since I've not done Sunday night.
Oh, wow. So you got tomorrow night off. Yeah, going to be fun.
Love it.
It's going to party hardy, folks. I'll tell you now. What time did you get to bed this morning?
Oh, about 1.
About 1? Okay. That's not too bad. It's more sleep than you had last weekend.
I picked up the...
Ready for sweepstakes.
The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV 1375. Right now, cloudy and 63 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
Playing those oldies on TRY makes you feel good, so give it a try. It's fun radio, we play solid gold on WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Say, have yourself a very safe and happy holiday weekend. We'll catch you next Saturday morning, bright and early at 6. I'm King of the Road now. Here's Roger Miller.
Trailer.